Somebody gonna say, why are you in the dark? Let me clean the screen. Hey, everybody. Hey. Hey. Hey, members. I just did a members live. So me and the members was hanging out. So I told the members we gonna be about to make it public now. This is Esmeralda from Bell, California. Well, hello. Hey, Stacy. You got a headache? I'm sorry to hear that. I don't like headaches. Hey, girl, let's do a trip. I'm retired flight attendant for free. You're crazy and fun. We'd have a blast. Tourist from Tampa. Oh, you trying to take a trip, Susan? Where them buddy passes at, girl? How much is a reading? You have to email MissHawaiiReadings@gmail.com if you would like to inquire about a personal reading. Okay, I'm going to be driving, you guys, so the service might be in and out. Watching from the Philippines. Wow. I love your videos. Thank y'all. Y'all want to hear some scary stories with me? I'll be watching the scary stories online. Y'all want to listen to some with me while I'm driving? I'm going home. I just finished my biopsy, so yay, something to chill and relax from New Zealand. Wow. Why you had to have a biopsy done? What happened? Shout out to New Zealand. Tell us your stories. I was just going to play some of the horror stories. I like listening to Mr. Nightmare. Y'all want to hear some? You had a procedure today too. Really? Y'all ready? Let me know if y'all can hear.
We moved into my grandparents' house in 2016 when they decided to downsize.
Y'all can hear?
I was 9. They had built the place in the early 90s, and it sits on 5 acres out on the outskirts of a small southern town. Woods and open fields stretch around it, and a slow, muddy river winds past our southern fence line. On 2 sides, our property touches our only neighbor's land, an odd, crooked patch of acreage with a house that felt like it was sinking into the ground. That house was old. The original farmhouse had been built in the 1920s, and over the years, it had been added onto in all the wrong ways, like someone stapled extra rooms together without a plan. The siding was discolored and soft-looking. Every time you glanced at it, it just looked wet, even on dry days. The yard was a nightmare.
Why are you behind me?
With vines, broken fountains surrounded by weeds, gnomes missing heads, and old trash that looked like it had been there for years. Grocery bags flapped in the tree branches. A rusted lawnmower sat in the middle of the grass like it had died mid-job and was never moved. It was the place that made you want to hold your breath when you...
I don't like this one. Let's hear what this one's talking about. I don't like that one. Let's go to the next one.
This happened just last week, during my final week at home before heading back to college. I've been debating whether to even write about it, but I can't stop thinking about what might be happening at home. My parents recently moved after I graduated high school. They'd been talking about downsizing for years, and once I was heading off to college, they finally pulled the trigger.
You said I'm not going to sleep good tonight?
A handful of times. My parents had given me the basic tour when they first bought it, pointing out where everything was and explaining some of the quirks of an older home. One thing they specifically mentioned was that the house didn't have a basement, just a crawl space for utilities. They seemed pretty definitive about that, so I never gave it much thought. My parents had left the night before for a week-long vacation.
Okay.
So I had the place to myself.
Okay.
The first night I noticed anything strange was a Tuesday.
Uh-oh.
I was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, and I heard this tapping sound coming from directly below the floor.
Oh.
It was consistent, both rhythmically and volume-wise. At first, I thought it might be the heating system, or maybe pipes settling. The floor of the house, so the sounds were definitely coming from underground.
Y'all pay attention,
I
pay
got
attention.
up and walked around the room, trying to pinpoint where exactly the sound was coming from, but it seemed to be coming from everywhere beneath the floor. What made it so disturbing was that according to my parents, there was supposed to be nothing down there but a crawl space.
Oh shit.
The idea that I was hearing sounds from below ground level,
Somebody
supposedly wasn't any livable space.
Somebody living in a basement.
Genuinely unsettling.
Somebody living in a basement.
Eventually, the tapping finally stopped, and I was able to fall asleep. When I woke up next morning, I figured that would be the end of it. I had probably just been hearing old house sounds or an animal scuttling around in the crawl space.
No.
But I was dead wrong. Later that night, around the same time, I started hearing that same tapping sound again.
Oh,
Only
shit.
this time, it was noticeably louder. I
Oh.
explained it away and just went to sleep.
What
I
y'all
remember
think?
feeling a lot more uncomfortable that night.
What y'all think? Y'all think someone to him? Somebody in the basement?
The next morning, I told my parents. About what had been going on. My dad immediately told me to check the crawl space for animals.
The service
worried
is
that
in and
maybe
out. I'm
something had
sorry,
gotten in there
because I'm
that shouldn't
driving.
have.
Don't worry, I'm almost home. I'm
I
almost
really
home.
didn't want to check down there.
I'll be home in
I figured
15
I
minutes.
didn't have much of a choice.
Come on into Baymont, where you'll be greeted with a warm welcome.
I'll be home in
Cozy room to
15
rest up
minutes.
in. Then grab.
The crawl space entrance is right under the porch, so I had to get my hands dirty to investigate it properly. And although I was holding my breath, it seems not to work. I decided to look for other possible explanations.
Somebody living.
Not to work.
Now.
Access around the house I'd missed.
Yep.
Or evidence of
Yep.
animals getting in somewhere else.
Yep.
As I was walking the perimeter,
Something
I
going
noticed a pile of old construction materials leaning against the side of the
Oh
house.
shit.
Lumber, tarps, concrete blocks, stuff
Oh
like that.
shit.
They looked like they'd been there for a while. Maybe left over from some previous renovation project.
You see?
It wasn't like I had noticed this stuff until then. I just always kind of overlooked them since I never had a reason not to. I started moving materials around, thinking maybe they were covering up some kind of opening that animals could use to get under the house. What I found instead was much, much worse.
Shit.
Hidden behind the construction materials was a storm door that had been completely concealed. It was
Oh.
partially painted over, and obviously hadn't been used in a long time, but it was definitely a legitimate entrance.
Oh.
I opened it and found a set of concrete steps leading down into what was unmistakably a basement.
Oh.
I stood there in shock. My parents had been completely wrong about the house not having one. I didn't want to go down there. I really didn't.
I
but
told you.
I did anyway. In the limited amount of
He
time I was
wildin'.
down there, I realized two things. Someone had clearly been living in that basement, which I could
Oh.
tell from the empty food containers scattered about.
Oh.
Two, whoever had been living down there was not a normal homeless person, which I could tell from the markings that were scratched into the wood foundation. There were scratch marks. They looked like tallies on one of the pillars, with what looked like demonic drawings on another. Drawings of people and animals, but in a seriously messed up way.
Oh.
Stuff I don't want to repeat here. I didn't stay down there any longer than I had to.
I would never went down there.
It was and still is the freakiest scene I've ever stumbled upon. I immediately called my parents to tell them what I had found. They were completely shocked and said they had no idea there was a basement, let alone that someone had been living in it. My dad asked me 100 times if I was sure that there was no one currently in there, and I reassured him that there wasn't. Then he said they'd cut their vacation short and come home immediately.
He was home by
The
himself.
first thing I did after hanging up was go out and buy a heavy-duty padlock. I secured the storm door from the outside, thinking that would solve the problem.
No, I
Whoever
would
had
not
been
have
staying
stayed
there
in
came
that.
back.
I would not have stayed.
That same night.
Hold on, let me
I
pause
was
this.
woken up
Hold
by
on. I paused it. Now listen, okay? I would not have stayed there. What do y'all think? You said it's a whole warlock. Like, I would have not stayed there. I'm sorry. Would y'all still have stayed in the house by yourself knowing that somebody was sneaking in through the basements and downstairs? He talk about it, and if I would have found something like that, I would not have went down there and inspected. Would y'all have done that? I would have called the cops. I would have called the cops, and why? Well, you can't call the cops if you don't see nothing. But I would have just going down there with a cop. You know what I mean? You gonna go down there by yourself. Suppose the man or whoever that was still there when you walked there. They would have whooped your ass. Or tried to kill you or something. You can't do that. What the hell he going back in? Let's hear the rest of the story.
Aggressive banging and rattling coming from outside.
You see what I'm saying?
I instantly knew what it was. Someone was trying to get back into the basement.
Yeah.
He was clearly frustrated that the door was now locked.
You padlocked it. He tight.
Was so loud and violent that I was afraid they might actually break the door down.
Oh shit.
I remember freezing up as my heart started to race.
He was tight.
Move. The banging stopped, and that unfroze me. I stepped over to the window, looked out just in time to see a figure sprinting across the backyard into the darkness.
Oh!
I couldn't make out any details about who it was, but seeing them flee made the whole situation feel more real and threatening.
They not gone yet?
The rest of the night was kind of a blur, honestly.
That person not
Mostly
gone.
because I was so terrified and shaken up, as much as I hate to admit it. The police did a thorough search of the house, including the basement.
Yeah.
But obviously they found nothing. They couldn't do much beyond promising to increase patrol in the area. My parents came home the next day, and they insisted that everything would be fine now that they're back. They said they'd figure out a more permanent solution together, and that I shouldn't worry about it anymore. I left for college the following morning as planned, but I was
Y'all can still hear, right? Y'all can still hear?
Unsettled by the whole experience. It felt wrong to leave my parents there alone, especially since we have
still here, right?
Waiting to hear from my parents about whether anything else has occurred.
Sorry, y'all. I'm almost home. 6
has,
minutes.
But that hasn't put me at ease at all. I can't stop thinking about those awful markings I found in the basement, especially those sadistic drawings. I can't even begin to imagine what that person has been doing down there. If I'm being real, I'm really scared that something else is going to happen.
All right, before we go to story number 2, what y'all thought of that one? What y'all thought of that one? By the way, this is called Mr. Nightmare. That's his channel if you want to subscribe. He got 6.9 million subscribers. So shout out to Mr. Nightmares. I always listen to him. If y'all want to follow him. You said, yeah, it was scary. So can you imagine that? Oh my God, somebody living like, that's why I don't like them big ass houses, y'all. We gonna listen to the stories and we gonna talk about it. And y'all let me know if y'all like doing that with me, because we'll keep doing it. But that's why I don't like them big houses, y'all, where somebody could just, you know what I mean? Be up in your shit living and all of that. That happened to somebody. I forget who that happened to. That happened to a celebrity. To listen to him on the road trips with the ex. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't bring up any sour memories. I didn't mean to. I'm old school, so I still turn around when I'm switching lanes. I don't just trust my lights and my mirrors. Anybody else still always look over there? I think you should still always look when you trying to switch lanes, or you trying to whatever, turn anything. That's my advice to y'all. Make sure you still turn around and look. Don't just rely on, because I got that, the new cars, they got that feature where if it's red, if it's red on your mirror, that means somebody is close to you. I don't go by that. I don't go by my mirrors. You know why? Because there's been times where I'll be driving and I think it looked like nobody is there. If I just go from my mirrors and that shit, and I'll turn around and somebody be there. And I'll be like, oh, that's why they call it the blind spot. Not really a blind spot. You just need to turn your ass around and look. It's a blind spot because people using that You know what I mean? People using that as an excuse because they not turning around and looking. It wouldn't be no blind spot if you turn around and look. So make sure y'all check y'all. I know I sound like a mother, and I ain't got no kids yet, but anyway, yeah. So that story, I feel like I would have never went inside and checked, first of all. And it's like, how you don't know that's there? How you don't know that that's in your basement? Let's go to the next story. Y'all ready? Let's do it. Pay attention.
I grew up in a small town a few miles from the Montana-Idaho border.
Okay.
I was on the Montana side.
I want to go there.
Nothing much ever happens out here, and honestly, that's part of why I never left. This happened a really long time ago, before the whole world had a cell phone and was chronically online. To be honest, my area hasn't changed much at all since then, which is part of the reason why what I'm about to tell you is so fresh in my memory. It was the very end of August, one of those final days of summer when you can already feel the seasons turning. That morning, Hill. Around 50 minutes out, I spotted a car pulled off on the shoulder. It was a light blue older model sedan. It looked like it had been there for a while.
Ain't my business.
It was just sitting there on the shoulder. No hazards on, no one standing outside.
Ain't my business.
Just sitting there, angled slightly toward the ditch. Now listen, I'm no fool, but I am the type of guy to help a person in need.
You stupid.
Just how I was raised.
You stupid.
As I got closer,
that's that Montana
I slowed
shit.
down a bit to get a better
that's that Montana, Idaho
shit. The
shit.
car wasn't running, and I couldn't see anyone inside. No one in the driver's seat, passenger seat, or the back. It was definitely strange, especially that early in the morning, but it wasn't exactly alarming. People break down and walk off for help all the time out here. I figured maybe someone had car trouble and headed off to the nearest farmhouse. So I kept driving. I had to get to work, and it didn't seem like an emergency. In all honesty, I kind of forgot about the whole thing by the time I got off. But as I was driving home, I saw that exact same car again, in the exact same spot. The only difference was that this time, the driver's side door was wide open. It hadn't been like that in the morning. I was sure of it. I slowed down again, craning my neck a little as I passed, but there was still no sign of anyone. No one walking nearby, no tracks I could see, just that same old car, sitting there with the door hanging open like someone got out in a hurry.
So go and drive past and mind your damn business.
I shrug it off. I pulled over.
Oh my God!
Non-emergency light. I told the operator where and what I had
Idaho
seen,
shit.
and she thanked me before saying someone would check it out.
Leave.
When I was driving into work the next day, the car was finally gone, so I figured that would be the end of it. About a week later, though, while I was eating breakfast, I saw something on the local news that caught my attention. Reportedly, the police were investigating a missing person case. Something about a vehicle found abandoned along a rural stretch of highway just outside town. The things they were saying lined up exactly with what I had seen. I instantly connected the dots and turned up the volume on my TV.
What the fuck is he talking about? Yo.
They didn't release the guy's name, but they said the car was registered to a man from out of town who never showed up to where he was supposed to. The thing was, according to the authorities, there was no sign of foul play and there were no witnesses to the situation. I've always been slightly suspicious of the media, so I wasn't sure I believed the story the news people were giving. Either way, it was eerie that I had basically been wise to the situation right when it happened. Come to think of it, I might have been the first person, or even the only person.
Y'all can still hear, right?
On the side of the road at all.
Y'all can still hear, right?
It's definitely a weird feeling. I tried to move on with my life, but I just couldn't. The curiosity was getting the better of me. Like I said before, not much happens out here, so something as odd as this was far too peculiar for me to just ignore. The next morning, I called my brother up. I'll just call him Benjamin. He's a local firefighter, not in my exact town, but close enough that we usually hear about the same stuff. That's just kind of how things are around with each other.
Y'all can still hear me, right?
He told me that they had gotten some memo about it from the sheriff's office. Something about a vehicle found abandoned and obviously the missing person. I asked him if the police were planning to do anything about it. He said he didn't know for sure, but that they'd probably organize a search at some point. He didn't have many details beyond that. I told him we should help out and maybe see if a few of the guys from the station would be willing to join in too. At first, he was confused as to why I was so invested in the whole thing, but I eventually convinced him. And by the way, I'm not really sure why I was so adamant about it either. I guess I just felt like I had some personal connection to it. I didn't even know how we'd coordinate with the police and organize the search, so I let my brother handle all of that himself. Within a couple days, and with permission of course, he pulled something together. The police were already planning on doing a search, and they appreciated the added help. It wasn't anything too grand, just a few officers, some off-duty firefighters, and me. The search was centered around a shallow wooded patch and a couple of old irrigation ditches that ran just off the shoulder of the highway. It was the kind of terrain that wouldn't look like much from a passing car, but once you were on foot, it was clear how easy it'd be for someone to get turned around or slip out of sight. We split off into pairs to be as efficient as possible. I, of course, paired up with my brother. About an hour into the search, one of the pairs radioed in. They spotted something through a break in the brush. We all converged on their location as quickly as possible. It turned out to be an old maintenance shack, and from the looks of it, one that probably hadn't been used in years. The whole thing was half sunken into the ground, with overgrowth curling up the sides. From the road, you'd never even know it was there. The door was hanging slightly open, and I could see that the lock had been snapped off. Inside, it was dark and musty, the way you'd expect an uninhabited space to feel. But as my eyes adjusted, I started noticing signs that someone had been in there recently. There were empty water bottles and food wrappers all over the place in a way that seemed deliberate. The search team spread out to check for additional evidence, both inside and around the perimeter of the shack. One of the firefighters said he spotted something by the back wall, so the rest of us went over to check it out. There was a small, clean hole in one of the wooden boards, just above floor level. The hole had sharp, splintered edges that looked nothing like the kind of damage you'd expect from weather or rot. It looked exactly like a bullet hole. We searched thoroughly.
What the fuck is going on?
And around it, looking for a shell casing, a slug, or any signs of blood. But there was nothing. Just that single, unexplained hole in the wall that did make sense given the complete lack of other evidence.
I'm confused.
The officers radioed in the discovery to dispatch, and I could tell from their tone that this had moved beyond a simple missing person case. The lead officer gathered all of us together and said they'd take it from there. Then he specifically asked me to leave, since I was the only civilian there. I felt dismissed and frustrated, but I didn't have much choice except to comply, so I left. When I called Benjamin later that evening, he gave me vague responses about what had happened after I left.
What the hell is going on?
Eventually, he admitted that the firefighters had also been asked to leave shortly after I departed. The police had basically cleared everyone out and took over the scene entirely.
Okay, so something happened.
Over the following weeks, I waited for updates. Benjamin's contacts at the department claimed they didn't know any details about the case, which I found strange. The local news never followed up beyond the original missing person report. It was like the whole thing had just been quietly dropped. Eventually, I decided to drive back and find the shack on my own.
Oh, he's
I
wildin'.
remembered exactly where it was.
He's wildin'.
So one day,
He's
I
wildin'.
drove along the
He's
highway
wildin'.
until I found the spot where we had begun the search. I spent hours walking the area where I
Why?
was absolutely certain the shack should be.
Why?
I followed the irrigation ditches to a T. Everything from the terrain to the sky looked exactly the same as it had that day, but there was nothing. No shack in sight. I started questioning my own memory. I figured there was a slight chance that maybe I wasn't looking in the exact right place, but even if that were the case, the shack should have been somewhere in that immediate range. I tried a different section of the search area, then another, but still found nothing. It was so strange. Stranger than I'm describing it now. I remember standing there in that overgrown scrubland, completely alone with the exception of the gentle breeze that whisked past me every so often. Peaceful, yeah,
Okay.
but strange. The only other explanation I could come up with was that maybe the county had removed the shack entirely. It wouldn't have been too difficult to excavate the thing and haul it away, But that seemed like an extreme response to what was supposed to be a routine missing person case. Those were the only two options, though. Either my memory had misled me, or the shack was no longer there. I left shortly after that. There wasn't much else I could do, really. I was left with this uncomfortable feeling that something...
Okay, I'm confused, y'all. Can somebody help me out with this story? I don't get it. This one lost me. So what? So he found an empty car, he reported it, and then they said somebody was missing. So he saw a shack that was there. And then when he went back with the police, the shack was gone. Do you guys understand what's going on? I'm confused. Y'all help me out. So now he's going back to where he thought he saw the shack. This one I don't like. This one is too confusing. I don't know what the hell is going on. Anybody know? Y'all not saying nothing, but y'all in here. Y'all probably just as damn confused as I am. Yeah, the person was probably murdered in the shack. They got rid of the shack. Is that what happened? Y'all don't even know what the hell going on either. You don't even know what happened to the last security guard. You said it's a cover up. I'm confused too. I don't trust this dude. That's what I'm saying. He doing too much. He acting like Sherlock Holmes up in this bitch, and he not even a cop. Let's just finish it, because we came this fucking far.
Important happened during those final days of summer. Something I was briefly allowed to witness before being shut out to completely. Every year when August ends and I feel that familiar shift in the air, I think about that abandoned car and that bullet hole in the wall of a shack that may or may not have even existed.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's how it ended? What the fuck was... Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm cursing too much. What in the hell was that? I don't like that one. That's one of the worst stories he ever submitted. I'm surprised he put that one up. It's not even scary. Yeah, Friday after next. That was whack. You said he was on shrooms. Right. Like, there was nothing scary about that. You found an abandoned car. You claim, so what? That he's saying the shack is... That don't even make no damn sense. Why would they remove the whole damn shack? Let's see what the last one is talking about. Hopefully this one is better. He ain't never had no bullshit like that. Yeah, Crybaby said he's hallucinating. Right, hallucinating. Because what the hell he talking about? And why they got these kids playing in the street? I don't like that. I don't like that. Take them to the park. You know what I mean? Let's hear the last one, y'all. Hopefully this one is good. Please let this one be
happened
good.
Last August, and it's completely changed how I feel about solo camping.
Oh, there we go. I ain't doing no damn camping. That's where he messed up. I ain't doing no damn camping. I'm sorry. I ain't doing no camping.
My dad had this end of summer tradition where he'd take me and my brother on a camping trip sometime around mid-August. Nothing elaborate.
Hell no.
Just a few days in the wilderness to mark the end of summer before school started back up. I'm in my late 20s now with a steady girlfriend, and I've moved on with my life in most ways. But that end of summer camping tradition is something I've tried to keep alive. Sometimes I can convince my dad and brother to join me, but usually it's just me going solo because my girlfriend absolutely hates camping.
Yeah,
I don't want to drag
I'm
her
with her on
somewhere
that.
she'll be miserable for 3 days.
3 days? Oh, you're wildin'. You think I'm gonna be camped out with Jason Voorhees for 3 days,
like a perfect
bitch?
spot on Google Maps. Some random, isolated clearing that wasn't a registered campsite or anything official. It was far enough away from any roads or trails that I figured I'd have complete privacy for a few days. I like the idea of actually being alone out there.
Right.
Not surrounded by RVs and families with screaming kids like at the official sites. I downloaded the map so I'd be able to access it without service, something I always make sure to do. The hike in took maybe 2 hours. I'm in decent shape, but I was carrying all my gear, so I took my time. I hiked until I found a suitable place to pitch my tent. It was pretty much exactly what I had been hoping for. A nice flat area surrounded by thick pine forest with a little clearing that gave me a good view of the sky.
Pause. Why would you want to go camping? You don't see no black people camping. We don't do that. Why would you want to go to a middle of the grass area, wooded area with nobody out there and put a tent up? Just think about it, and put a tent up and go and stay there for 3 days. Why would you want to do that? Because think about what's out there. You were a Boy Scout. That's nice. That's nice. But just think about it. There's animals out there. That's the wilderness. It's psychos out there. Why would you want to go camping? I don't even want no cabin in the woods. And I be seeing some of them, they be nice. They be nice, but I don't want to go to no cabin in the woods. You said it's healing. Shit. I can heal right in my house. I'll go to a spiritual retreat. I'll go to church. I don't need to go to no damn wooded area in the grass, put up no tent, and go sleep for 3 days in the middle of nowhere. Let's hear the rest of the story.
First night was perfect, honestly.
Oh.
Just me, my thoughts, and nobody asking me about work or when I was getting engaged or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I made a small fire, cooked some freeze-dried pasta thing that actually wasn't
in my backyard,
and
right?
I did some stargazing. The next morning, I decided to hike to a nearby river I'd spotted on my map. I figured I'd try to catch a fish for dinner. It would feel more authentic than just eating the packaged food I brought for the whole trip.
Shit.
Plus, it would kill some time. And out there, you've got nothing but time. I basically spent the whole day at the river.
And he by himself?
I didn't mind. It was nice and peaceful. And even though I'm not much of a fisherman, I got lucky and actually caught a decent-sized brook trout.
Oh.
I threw it in my handheld cooler and started making my way back to camp. I was feeling pretty good about myself. My dad would have been proud.
Stupid.
The problem was that I'd completely mistimed the sunset and underestimated how far I'd hiked.
Oh.
What should have been a leisurely walk back to my campsite turned into a trek through the woods after the sun had already gone down. Within maybe 20 minutes, it went from that golden hour light to basically full darkness. I had a headlamp, but the terrain was unfamiliar.
You see what I'm
enough
saying?
that I was moving pretty slowly. At one point,
All for
I
a
noticed
piece of fish.
faint light in the distance. It appeared to be swaying back and forth in this rhythmic pattern, like someone was walking with a lantern or a flashlight. At first, I was actually relieved. Maybe there was another camper out there. We could help each other navigate back to wherever we were supposed to be. After all, if you're hiking through overgrown wilderness at that time of night, you've definitely screwed something up or mistimed something, just like I had. As I watched the light, I realized it was getting closer to me, meaning whoever was holding it was walking in my direction. Not wanting to spook them, I decided to announce my presence and yelled out a friendly hello, followed by asking if they were camping too. I kept my tone as friendly and unconfrontational as possible. The light immediately stopped swaying. I watched as it sat perfectly still for several seconds, which struck me as odd. Then, without warning, it shut off completely, which struck me as even odder. Another few seconds passed, and I stared at the now pitch-black spot where the light had just been. And then, out of nowhere, I heard this violent crashing through the underbrush, like someone running full speed through the forest, but not toward or away from me. Off to the left, perpendicular to where I was standing. It was unmistakable. My heart was going pretty good at that point. The whole thing was really, really disturbing. I can't even begin to describe how uncomfortable I was.
What the fuck?
Everything about it was just so wrong. Why would someone run away like that? Even if I'd startled them, the normal reaction would be to say something back, right? Or at the very least back away slowly, not spring through the woods in the dark. I tried rationalizing it the whole way back to my campsite. The best explanation I could come up with was that I had somehow scared them by calling out. After all, they had no way of knowing that I meant no harm, and encountering a stranger in the middle of nowhere at night could be frightening for anyone. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The secluded nature of the area made it unlikely that there would be other campers around, and most people would at least respond when someone called out to them, let alone in a friendly way. I picked up the pace and made it back to my campsite, but I was so unsettled that I didn't even bother making a fire to cook the fish. I just sat in my tent, ate some of my packed food, and tried to read my book before calling it an early night.
That's a commercial. This is not going to end well.
I'm normally a pretty heavy sleeper, especially when I'm camping and exhausted from hiking all day. So when I woke up randomly in the middle of the night, I knew something was off. I listened to my surroundings for a few minutes, but everything sounded normal. Just the usual forest noises you'd expect. Before trying to go back to sleep, I realized I needed to step outside to relieve myself. I unzipped my tent and started to poke my head out. The moon was pretty bright, enough that I could see the clearing without my headlamp. The moment I got a clear view of my campsite, I froze. There was someone standing there, maybe 15 feet from my tent. I couldn't make out any details, just the silhouette of a person where there absolutely should not have been a person. They were just standing there motionlessly, like they were watching my tent. I'd never been in a situation like that before, and I honestly had no idea what to do. My mind was racing, but my body wouldn't move. Surely, whoever was there had seen or heard me unzip the tent, and they probably also knew that I was not aware they were standing there. I was likely moments away from being attacked. As soon as I started thinking along the lines of life and death, my survival instinct took over, and I was able to snap myself out of my haze. I reached for the switchblade I always kept by the entrance of my tent and called out loudly, asking who was there. The moment I spoke, the figure started sprinting directly toward my tent.
Oh!
Completely off guard. No warning, just 0 to full sprint instantly, shrieking in the shrill, unnatural scream that didn't even sound human. They hit me before I could even process what was happening.
Oh!
The two of us started rolling around on the ground.
Oh!
The guy, definitely a man judging by the voice, began clawing at my face like an animal. Not punching, literally clawing like he was trying to rip me to shreds. I managed to get the switchblade between us and sliced at his hand before dropping it in the struggle. Even though I hadn't gotten off the cleanest strike, cutting his hand was apparently enough, because he immediately started shrieking and got off of me. He went crashing through the woods again, only this time, I could hear him screaming or laughing or making whatever sick noise he was making. I sat there for who knows how long, trying to process what just happened. My face was stinging from the scratches, and my hands were shaking uncontrollably. I could feel blood all over my face, but I wasn't sure if it was mine or his. I considered trying to hike back to my car immediately, but navigating through the woods in pitch black darkness seemed like an even worse idea than staying put.
Oh my God.
I only really had one option at that point. Spend the rest of the night sitting in my tent, switchblade in hand, listening to every little sound and expecting the man to come back at any moment. It was the longest night of my life, but I eventually made it to daylight. The second there was enough light to see, I packed up my gear as quietly as possible and hiked back to my car at a significantly faster pace than I had been going on the way in.
Oh my God.
As soon as I got to my car, I sped out of there without another thought. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? Some guy attacked me in the woods where I was camping illegally? They probably would have just told me that's what I get for camping alone in remote spots, so I didn't. The whole drive home, I kept thinking about how close I'd come to something really bad happening. If I hadn't had that knife, or if the guy hadn't run off when I cut him, things could have ended very differently. But that's not even the craziest part. The thing that still makes my head spin is just the fact that he was even there. Like, he obviously wasn't camping, and he obviously wasn't a normal person. That much was clear from the fact that he tracked me down in pitch black darkness and attacked me. And that scream, it honestly spooks me just thinking about how brutal it was. Definitely human, but twisted in some truly unnatural.
Wow, that shit is crazy right there. That last story is crazy, boy.
I haven't been solo camping since then.
I bet. Shit, that last one was crazy, boy. Oh my God. Because why would you go solo? Like, why would you go camping, period? But you gonna go by yourself and you don't even got no gun. You ain't even got a glizzy. You took a box cutter, whatever the hell he had. You don't even got a glizzy with you. Like, if you are going to be like, you know what, you on some wild Georgia the jungle shit, and you like, you know what, I want to go camp out by myself. Fuck it. At least have a glizzy. Yeah, you was alone on top of that. Like, you cooking fish and shit. Like, what the fuck? That was scary. I still would have reported it to the cops, though. Even though he said, he was illegally camping. You still could have said, say you went fishing or something. Make something up. Yeah. You said, hello, me, Smith and Wesson, right? You said he lucky he didn't get lost and wander for hours long. That's what I'm saying, like, because the scary part was like, I mean, all of it was scary, but he had to sit there in the tent until the daytime. Like, oh my God. And you don't know if that dude gonna come back, try to fight you. That's scary. Hey Prachi, that's scary. Y'all like the stories? Y'all like the stories? That shit is crazy. You like it, right? It's fun. I'll be putting those on sometimes, like while I'm getting ready and stuff like that, or cleaning the house. You should do more scary stories for October. We can. I'm happy y'all like it. We can. I love the scary stories. Yeah, his name is Mr. Nightmare, by the way, if anybody want to follow him. His name is Mr. Nightmare. That's his name on YouTube. He got millions of subscribers. So y'all go and subscribe, support his channel. What monitor do you use when you edit your videos? I don't use no monitor. Getting into fall vibes, right? You said we can tell scary stories too. Yeah. I used to watch him. I knew he sounded familiar. Yeah. Oh, y'all know who he is. Yeah, that's Mr. Nightmare. He cool. It's other people that do it too, but I don't know. Excuse me. Sometimes their stories don't be good. Sometimes their stories don't be good. I like Mr. Nightmare stories. They always good. He got one here called 3 True Home Intrusion Horror Stories. Y'all want to hear that one? We could talk throughout it. We can talk at the end of it too. Yeah, he's popular. Said, let's go. It's called 3 Scary True Home Intrusion Horror Stories. We're only days away from Libra season. Yeah. Y'all ready?
This story happened like 10 years ago. I grew up in a smallish house. For the majority of my childhood, I shared a bedroom with my older brother. 2 twin beds on opposite sides of the room, 2 dressers and 2 closets. We didn't even have enough room for a desk. It wasn't cramped, but it wasn't exactly comfortable either. So when my brother went away to college, I immediately moved his bed out of the room and commandeered the space, so to speak. With his permission, of course. I was finally at the age where a bedroom desk was a necessity, so it was nice not having to do homework in the basement or upstairs in my dad's office. That arrangement worked seamlessly for the 2 years before I myself went off to college, at which point I wasn't living at home anymore, so it didn't matter. After graduating, my brother got a city job in our hometown area, so we ended up moving back into my parents' house. And the first thing he does, you guessed it, re-sees our bedroom that I had spent months of expended effort redesigning. I was a little irritated at first, but my parents contextualized it by saying I had basically done the same thing to him, so it was only fair. I couldn't argue with that, so I just accepted it. By the time I graduated, I had also found a city job, so I opted to move back into my parents' house, just like my brother had. Unfortunately, I didn't have a room anymore, so I'd have to make other arrangements. The only other unused room in the house was our upstairs guest bedroom, so even though it was half the size of my old room, it would have to do the trick. The guest room was right next to my dad's office, which was the only other room on that floor. It was also directly above the garage, which meant every time someone clicked the garage door button, the whole floor would vibrate for the full 10 seconds it took the door to open. The
That's
room
annoying.
kind of overhangs the house slightly since it's on the corner, so there were 2 windows on intersecting walls, one overlooking the driveway and one overlooking one of the sides of the house. It wasn't ideal, but it was private and quiet most of the time. This particular incident happened on a Friday evening when I was home alone. My brother was in Baltimore for some work-related conference, and my parents were spending the night at our family shore house like they did most summer weekends. I was coming off an absolutely grueling day at work, so I decided not to go out with any of my friends or even leave the house. I just wanted to order some food and call it an early night.
I know those nights.
It was around 11:30, and I was lying in bed reading a book, trying to unwind from the day. The house was completely quiet, which was kind of nice since it's usually pretty chaotic when everyone's home. That's when I heard the unmistakable sound of the garage door starting to rise, followed by that all too familiar vibrating of the floor that I'd gotten used to over the past few months. It took a few seconds for it to really hit me. None of my family members should have been home. My parents had specifically said that they were staying at the shore house until Sunday night, and my brother wasn't supposed to be back until Saturday afternoon. It took several seconds for that realization to fully sink in, but when it did, my heart started racing. I immediately jumped out of bed and looked out the window toward the driveway, but it was too dark to make out anything clearly. I could see that the garage door was open, but I couldn't tell if there was a car inside or who might have opened it. Without another thought, I rummaged through the closet until I found one of the baseball bats my parents had thrown in there from my younger days. As I was quietly walking down the stairs, I tried convincing myself that there was a logical explanation for the garage door opening.
Hell no.
Maybe my parents had forgotten something and driven back. Maybe my brother's plans changed. Hell, maybe the door had glitched and opened on its own. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, right before turning the corner toward the main part of the house, I could hear faint voices. The voices were definitely coming from the other side of the house, where all the bedrooms were. They were too quiet for me to make out what they were saying, but I could tell that there were at least 2 people talking. That's when I knew for certain that someone had broken into our house. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, whispering my address and telling the operator that my house was currently being burglarized.
Shit.
I left the call live and put the phone back in my pocket like they tell you to. The operator told me to stay put and not to announce my presence, but I felt this overwhelming urge to defend my house. It was like I was being compelled by some invisible force to do something rather than just hide and wait. So against the operator's instruction, I decided that's exactly what I was going to do. I crept down the hallway toward the voices, clutching the baseball bat as tightly as I could. As I got closer to my parents' bedroom, I could hear the sounds of drawers being opened and things being moved around. They were clearly searching for something valuable. I took a deep breath, knowing that what I was about to do was probably stupid, but unable to stop myself. I started yelling as loudly as I could to catch them off guard, then charged into the room with the baseball bat raised above my head. There were 2 men rummaging through my mother's closet, and they both yelled out in shock when I burst through the door. I could tell they hadn't expected anyone to be home, let alone someone willing to fight back. That gave me confidence despite the fact that I was outnumbered and they could have easily had weapons of their own. I swung the bat at the closer of the 2 men, connecting with his leg. He cursed and hobbled a few steps before falling over. I turned to the other one, but before I could get a clean swing at him, he dropped his shoulder and tackled me before I could react.
Oh!
The 2 of us hit the ground hard.
Oh!
I immediately realized that this guy was significantly larger and stronger than me. He wrestled the bat out of my hands without much effort, and got his hands around my throat and started choking me. I was fighting for my life, clawing at his hands and trying to get him off of me, when I saw the first guy crawling towards us. He had something in his hand that looked like a knife, and in that moment, I realized I'd made a grave mistake by trying to play hero, a mistake that was going to cost me my life. I genuinely thought those might be the final moments of my life. I started accepting that I was going to die in my parents' bedroom, and all I could think about was how devastated my mom would be when she found out. But then, in the background, I heard the faint sound of police sirens approaching. The last thing I remember is the second guy picking up my baseball bat and swinging it at my head. Everything went black after that. When I woke up, someone was shaking me gently.
Oh my God, commercial. What the fuck? What the hell? This one is crazy.
I opened my eyes to see a police officer kneeling beside me, asking if I was okay. I was dazed and confused, and it took me several seconds to remember what had happened. I looked around the room and saw that the door connecting my parents' bedroom to the backyard was wide open. The intruders had clearly knocked me out and fled through the back when they heard the sirens. The officer told me to stay put and not to move too much in case I was concussed or had other injuries. I had a raging headache, but I was conscious and coherent, which seemed like a good sign. Once the paramedics confirmed that I was okay, I refused to go to the hospital despite their recommendations. I gave the officers a detailed account of what happened. They told me they were currently searching the neighborhood for suspects, but by the time they'd arrived, the men were already long gone. After the police finished their investigation and took some photos of the scene, I called my parents and brother to let them know what had happened. My parents yelled at me pretty harshly for being stupid enough to confront those guys, and I deserved it. Had I just done the smart thing and hid, there's a good chance the police would have been able to apprehend the perps.
Yeah.
The men were never found, despite the police canvassing the neighborhood and following up on a few leads. My parents installed a comprehensive security system the moment they got back from the shore house, complete with cameras, motion sensors, lights, the whole nine. The days after the break-in, something kept bothering me about the whole situation. All the doors to my house were locked that night, and the only way to open the garage door was through a little button in my car that my dad had programmed to be a wireless switch. There was no way anyone would just stumble upon it. Whoever had broken in that night had known me or my family well enough to know where that button was. Up until that moment, I never locked my car when it was in the driveway either, so that's something the culprits would have had to know as well. Even more concerning was the timing. They somehow knew that my parents would be away
they knew them.
Was out of town.
They knew them.
I don't live in that house anymore, but my parents were never able to determine who had broken in. It was actually something that made my dad really paranoid for a long time, since he too thought that whoever had broken in was close to the family in some way. I'm not going to go as far as to say that night changed
that gave me chills right there.
Like that, but I will say one thing. Life before and after you've accepted you're going to die are two very different things. I can still remember that feeling of thinking it was the end for me. It just felt so dissociating. Nothing can replicate that feeling.
Okay, so let's talk about it. That was a good one. That literally gave me chills at the end. So whoever that was that broke in their house, they knew them, because he said there was a specific switch in his car. That could have been somebody in the family, and they knew that they was going away. They knew the family was going to be away that weekend. Yeah, you said they looking for something specific. They were. That is crazy. That is crazy. Whoever that is, they probably knew that family had money. Damn. But that really got to be somebody close, because how would somebody know about the switch in your car and it turning and it you know what I mean? It activating a garage door and all of that. That's insane. Shit, maybe it was the mechanic. Maybe it's somebody that had to have been in his car before, that had to have been with him before, or the person that put that in the car. That's crazy. You said that's some true crime stuff right there. Yeah, y'all like that one? You ready for the next one? Oh boy, I'm scared of the next one, y'all. See, these stories be having me look around. I keep looking around with these stories. I love you too. You said I'm at work just enjoying watching you. That's some shady shit. It is. Y'all ready for the next one? Let me light up my little J right here. You said keep it going. Let's go.
This happened about 6 months ago, and I'm still shaken up by how calculated and personal the whole thing was. I had recently moved back to my hometown to help care for my aging mother, who lives about 20 minutes away from me. I found this small duplex that was perfect for my situation, close enough to get to her quickly if needed, but far enough that I still had my own space and independence. My mom has been having some health issues lately. Nothing life-threatening, but she's had a few minor falls around the house, and she's stubborn about accepting help. I've been trying to convince her to get one of those medical alert systems, but she insists she doesn't need one and that I'm just being overprotective. It's been a constant source of stress for me, especially knowing that she's alone most of the time. On this particular evening, I was just settling in for the night. It was around 9 p.m., and I was on the couch watching TV when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a local number that I didn't recognize, but since I was still relatively new to the area, I figured it might be important and answered. The woman on the other end identified herself as a nurse at a local emergency room. She said my mother had been brought in about an hour ago after taking a fall and hitting her head. According to her, my mom was conscious but asking for me, and they wanted to know if I could get to the hospital quickly. I was horrified. This was exactly the kind of call I'd been dreading since moving back. I didn't doubt the legitimacy of the call for 1 second. The woman on the other end knew my mother's full name, her address, and even mentioned her recent hip replacement surgery from a few months ago. I immediately stopped what I was doing, trying to keep calm and level myself by saying a silent prayer. I didn't even think about locking up the house. I just grabbed my keys, pulled the front door shut behind me, and raced to my car. The drive to the hospital was a nightmare. I kept running through scenarios in my head, and only a few of them were remotely good. When I got to the ER, I rushed up to the reception desk and told them I was there for my mother. I gave them her name and said I'd received a call about her fall. The nurse looked confused and checked her computer, then told me there was no record of anyone by that name being admitted or treated that evening. I insisted there had to be some mistake, since I had just gotten a call from someone claiming to be a nurse there. The receptionist was sympathetic but firm. They had no record of my mother being brought in, and they suggested I try calling her directly.
What the hell?
Okay. So that's what I did.
They wanted to get him out the house.
Called my mom's landline.
They wanted to get him out the house.
She answered. She said she'd been sleeping and wanted to know why I was calling so late. I didn't want to scare her, so I just said I was checking up on her and told her to go back to bed. And that's when the heart-sinking realization hit me. This had been a setup.
Yep.
Someone had deliberately given me false information to get me out of my house.
Yes.
I jumped back in my car, furious that I'd been tricked so easily. When I pulled into my driveway, the front door was still closed, just like I'd left it. For a moment, I thought maybe I was being paranoid and nothing had happened. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew I'd been robbed.
I decided to go with
shit,
Row.
commercial.
Dealing with insurance is nerve-wracking. Having a team at Row help me with my insurance coverage.
The house had been completely ransacked.
Oh!
My TV was gone, along with my laptop and small jewelry collection I kept in my bedroom.
Oh!
But as I looked around more carefully, I realized the thieves had taken some really strange things too. Family photos had been removed from their frames. Not the frames themselves, just the actual photos. My prescription bottles from the bathroom medicine cabinet had been emptied and taken. It was insane. They had taken things that had relatively little monetary value, yet huge sentimental value to me. It was sadistic, I'm telling you. There's no reason a thief would ever take family photos. There
That's
just isn't.
off. That's somebody in the family.
I called the police immediately.
That's somebody in the family.
I was already feeling defeated at that point. Deep down, I knew the thieves were long gone, and there was nothing I could do about it. I told the police everything. I remember the phone call verbatim, and after hearing it, the police reached the same conclusion I had. Whoever had been on the other end had known things about my mother and I that no stranger could possibly know.
Exactly.
For the life of me, I couldn't even come up with a list of people who would have that information, or even ways that someone could have gotten that information in the first place.
Yeah, know about his mother's hip.
The officers told me to feel free to call back whenever I had something concrete. Then they left. I was utterly baffled. Just imagine how unsettled you'd feel if some stranger knew enough about you to lure you out of your house. The theft itself was bad
His
enough,
mom is good. He
but
called
the
his
fact that
mom.
They targeted family photos and medical information suggested it wasn't just about quick cash. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were planning something longer term, possibly identity theft or some other scheme that required personal documentation. But over the next few weeks, nothing else happened. Even though my mother, quote, can't remember who she might have talked to about her personal info, I'm pretty confident that she's the source of the leak.
Oh.
She surprisingly has a lot of friends for a woman her age.
His
Knowing
mother.
her, she probably said too much to the wrong person.
She said something, his mother.
I've warned my mother about that very thing, and she's finally agreed to be more careful about who she gives personal information to. But I can't shake the feeling that we're still being watched by someone who knows way too much about our lives and isn't finished with whatever they're planning.
Right.
Either way, I recently got a Ring camera, so hopefully that's enough of a deterrent. If anything else happens, I'll send an update.
No, not no damn Ring camera. Yeah, because the weird thing is they took the family photos. Why would somebody take the family photos? Like, why would you want pictures of somebody? And who was the woman that called him? He should have had that number traced. Or that number tracked or whatever. However, the lady that called him that pretended to be a nurse, that told him about his mother, he should have gave them that number. Yes, it's probably more than one person down with it. The mom was running her mouth. They probably figured the son got money. We get the son out the house. That's crazy. But he said they ain't even take nothing like a monetary value. That's what's weird. So they didn't take like no money or nothing like that. They took like family photos. Something weird with that. What y'all think? Who y'all think did it? You said a hating ass family member. A sick individual, right? Who y'all think did that? Because that wasn't just somebody trying to rob them. I'm too deep in what's next. Girl, you started something now. Right. These are good, right? You would say, I was going to say, where's his Ring camera? He needs one. Shit, he need a gun. He need an alarm system. It's definitely someone in the family on the mom's side. Yeah. And it's like you gave it away with the pictures. Because that's not something crooks take. Like, you know, if they try to, like burglars, they're not going to take that. They don't give a damn about your family photos. They want money, cash, jewelry, you know? You said she and her circle's bragging about his success, I bet. Yeah. Shit, maybe that's a bitch he was dating. That's probably some girl he was dating. Maybe she did it. Because it seemed like it's somebody trying to, like, get him. You know what I mean? Like, get at him. Like, yeah, like a crazy ex-girlfriend or something. Or somebody, maybe he rejected or something like that. She was like, I'm going to get his ass back. Because it's like, yeah, I'm going to take his picture with his mom. Probably going to do some voodoo or some shit on him. Maybe she wanted the pictures for some voodoo. Maybe she's trying to do some black magic. Yeah, because why else would you want somebody's pictures? Think about it. Why else would you want somebody's pictures for? Unless you obsessed with the individual and you just like want pictures of them with their mother and their daddy and their nappy-headed granny. Then that's just a sick lunatic. It could be that too. Because some people crazy like that. It sounds like it's probably an ex-girlfriend. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Y'all ready for the next one? Let's go. This is number 3. This is the last one.
I'm a single guy in my early 30s, and I've been living alone in this rented house for over a year now. It's a nice little place in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it's comfortable and the rent is reasonable. I've gotten into a good routine here and really feel like I'd made it my home. The incident happened on a Thursday night around 11:30.
I don't like houses.
I was getting ready
They
for
too
bed
big.
when I heard aggressive pounding on my front door. Not knocking, but actual pounding, like someone was trying to break it down. I looked out the window, but couldn't see much because of how poorly the porch light is positioned. Despite not being able to see who it was and the aggressiveness of the knocking, I'm a pretty buff guy, so I wasn't scared or anything, more so irritated and confused. I opened the front door, careful to keep the screen door shut as an added layer of protection. I'm not sure what I was expecting to see, but what I did see was surprising to say the least. There was this extremely agitated man standing there. He looked to be maybe a few years older than me. He was average height, had disheveled hair, and was wearing clothes that looked like they had been slept in multiple nights in a row. But what really caught my attention was how angry and unstable he seemed. His eyes were darting around, and he was breathing heavily like he'd been running or was having some kind of panic attack. He was also pacing around, like he couldn't keep his feet on the ground. Before I could even ask what he wanted, he started yelling that this was his house and demanding that I let him in. He said I was trespassing and that he was going to call the police if I didn't get out immediately.
Oh, he's crazy.
I thought he was either on drugs or having some kind of mental health crisis, or maybe a combination of the two. I tried to calm him down and explain that he had the wrong house, but he became even more agitated.
Oh, shit.
That's when he started rattling off details about the house that made me freeze up. I don't even remember everything he said, but he knew several things about the house that you couldn't observe from outside it. Details that only someone who had actually lived there would know.
Oh,
like,
shit.
For example, he knew that the door for the master bedroom is poorly designed and bangs into the toilet. He knew that the back door sticks and you have to lift it slightly while turning the doorknob. There was some other stuff too, but
he lived there. He actually lived there before.
I don't think I even said anything while he was talking. I was just standing there in shock. But that was only the beginning. It was about to get much, much weirder. Through the screen door, he pulled out a folder and started showing me documentation. He had what appeared to be a lease agreement with his name on it, dated from about 6 months before I'd moved in. He had pieces of mail addressed to him at this address. Everything looked official, though I suspected it had been forged somehow. But the most unsettling part was when he pulled out his phone and started showing me photos. They were literal pictures of him inside my house, sitting on my current couch watching TV, cooking in the kitchen, even lying down in what was now my bedroom. The photos looked recent and completely legitimate. They weren't obviously photoshopped or staged, and most of them weren't solo. They had other people in them, all of whom I'd never seen before. He showed me one photo that he claimed was from this past 4th of July, just a few months ago. It was a selfie taken by a woman I didn't recognize. In it, the woman, him, and a few other people were facing the camera and smiling at the kitchen table. There was a box of fireworks off to the side, and the detail and context of the picture made it look completely authentic. That's when I genuinely started questioning my own memory and sanity. How could this person have all this evidence if they never lived here?
Oh, shit.
I started wondering if I somehow blocked out memories of sharing the house with someone, and if I was the one having some kind of psychological breakdown. It was freaky, especially since I knew for a fact that I had been home on the 4th of July, so the pictures made even less sense. The whole situation was so surreal that I told them I was going to call the police to sort everything out. Not even in an antagonistic way. I just didn't know what else to do. I figured they could check the records and determine what was going on. But the moment I mentioned calling the cops, the guy's demeanor changed completely. He suddenly became very calm and said he'd wait outside while I made the call. Then he just walked away from the door and disappeared into the darkness. I watched from the window, but I couldn't see where he went. When the police arrived about 10 minutes later, I explained the whole bizarre situation. They told me I should try reaching out to my landlord to get in contact with the previous tenants, and that I might get some answers that way. I had all the required documentation proving I was renting this house, but when I offered to show it to them, they waved it off. They said whoever had been on my doorstep was probably just going through a mental episode, and as long as they were gone, I should just carry on with my life.
What
Then
the
they left.
fuck?
I wasn't just gonna sit there and be satisfied with that, though.
No.
Whether or not that guy had left still left the question of how in the world he had all that
Yeah,
evidence.
that's creepy. Commercial. That is fucking creepy. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. He got access to my shit.
With my landlord's help, I was eventually able to get in contact with the previous tenants. I should mention that my landlord had no idea what had happened either, and said he didn't know anyone matching that guy's description, and had never rented to anyone like that. But anyway, the old tenants also had no idea who I was talking about. They said they'd never lived with anyone matching his description, and they'd lived in the house alone for 3 years before moving out. They were just as confused as I was about how this stranger could have such detailed knowledge of the house and apparently legitimate photos of himself inside of it.
Oh,
For the next 2 weeks, I was constantly on edge, but nothing happened, and I started to think that maybe it had just been some elaborate scam that had failed.
No.
But of course, that turned out to be mostly wishful thinking. One night, I came home from a night on the town with my friends to find my house completely ransacked.
Oh!
It wasn't like a typical burglary where someone grabs obvious valuables and runs. The place was completely turned upside down, like someone had been looking for something specific. What that thing was, I had no idea. The craziest part is that most of my electronics and other valuable items were still there, despite the fact that the rooms they were in were completely trashed. The police found no signs of forced entry, which suggested that whoever did it had a copy of my key.
He got a key to that
Given
house.
the timing and connection to the strange incident 2 weeks earlier, it seemed obvious that the same person was responsible.
Yes.
The police took things more seriously after that, and so did my landlord. He replaced all the locks in the house immediately and free of charge, and also installed additional security measures.
Oh my
The
God.
going theory, and the one I believe, is that some crazy person really does believe he lives in my house.
Yes.
And broke in to look for his personal belongings or something.
Yes.
And okay, sure, that's problematic enough on its own, but that does absolutely nothing to explain how he had all that documentation, let alone
That
literal
was
copies
fake.
of my house key. I wish I had the sense to take a closer look at that so-called lease agreement he had shown
That was
me,
fake.
because I might have been able to get his name. But in the moment, I just wasn't thinking clearly. The documents don't even bother me that much. All that stuff could have been easily forged or altered,
exactly.
including the alleged pieces of mail. What freaks me out to my core, though, are the pictures. I have no explanation for any of that stuff.
That's creepy.
It's possible they're really old pictures whose dates are doctored.
No, but it's
even
your
if that's the
furniture.
case, it still doesn't explain how my landlord, who's owned that house his entire life, didn't recognize him. One of my friends suggested that I'm up against something not fully natural. I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but I will say that I've had this constant creepy feeling hanging over me whenever I'm in my own home, which is most of the time. I can't.
Oh, so he's saying he think it's a spirit. He's saying he think it's a ghost. He think it's a spirit. Oh, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy, boy. I'm leaving that house. Why would you stay there? Why would you stay there? You said, I can't sleep now. No more. We're not going to watch no more. We're not going to listen to no more. I don't want to scare y'all. But no, you need to know the crazy that's out here. So what y'all think? Y'all think it's a spirit or you think it's just some crazy person? I didn't think that was no spirit. I think that's some crazy person that was going in his house. That was a squatter. I think that was a fucking squatter. What y'all think? And they had keys to that house. They probably had keys to the house before the other people too. You said throw the whole house away. Yeah, I'm out. I'm not staying there. I don't think that was no demon or no ghost. I think because if that was a demon or a ghost or whatever, they would have, like when he talked to the previous tenants, he probably would have approached them too. Why is it just him getting approached? Other people would have been approached. He said it was his furniture. I think that was a person. That was some nut. You know, there was a movie like that with Jamie Kennedy. Have y'all ever seen it? It's good. It's called Foreclosed. You said, I think the landlord lying. Right. Because you know whoever that is bullshit and they don't actually live there. Because if you actually thought somebody was living in your house, you would go to the police. You wouldn't go banging on the door and all of that. If I see somebody living in my place, I'm going to be like, what the hell? I'm going to call the cops, go to the leasing office or something. So that's how you know it's cap. Yeah, that's how you know that's Cap. That was some psychopath. The movie Foreclosed is like that. This family, they move into this beautiful new house and they all excited and happy to be living there and everything. And then this dude come and he like, this is my house. Like, y'all gotta go. And they like, who the hell are you? We just bought the house, and he got like the deed and all of that, saying it's his house, and they confused and everything like that. So they call the cops and everything, and they find out that that guy is just crazy. Like, he used to live there, but he actually used to like live there. And I guess he lost the home. So he went crazy after he lost the home, and he kept thinking that it was his place. So he kept showing up. They had to keep calling the cops. Y'all ever saw it? It's called Foreclosed with Jamie Kennedy. I love Jamie Kennedy. He played the nut. He kept showing up harassing these people. And they had to keep calling the cops on his crazy ass. Yeah, it's called Foreclosed. Foreclosed. That's what it's called. It is a good movie. Yeah, I watch it a lot because I used to have it downloaded on my PlayStation. So I used to watch it on my PlayStation a lot. But yeah, like, he was horrible. And then they found out at the end. I mean, I don't want to tell you. I want you to see it. But they found out at the end, like, he had like everything set up. He had cameras and everything in the house. He was living down underneath the bottom of the house. It's called Foreclosed with Jamie Kennedy. A lot of people don't even know about that movie, but it's good. He was crazy. He kept showing up, harassing the people, saying that was his house. They needed to leave. Can you imagine that? You spent all this money and you all excited with your family. That's like some hell shit. And you move in your house, in your new house, and some nut, it keep coming in talking about you need to leave. This is my shit. I'll be like, what? The devil is a lie. But yeah, I think that was some crazy person. That's kind of sick. Somebody was all up in his place. I wonder how they did the 4th of July shit, though, because he said he was home for the 4th of July. So if he was home for the 4th of July, how did they get those pictures? It seemed like at the end of the story, they're giving the key to what it possibly that was going on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that was no ghost. See, now I got y'all into it. Y'all gonna start watching it. Y'all gonna start listening to him. That was fun. I enjoyed that with y'all. Y'all are fun to listen to stories with. You guys make good commentary. Because that's how it is when I be watching movies with my mom. Like, me and my mom be talking. Like, we be making commentary throughout the movie. Like, I don't like to watch a movie with somebody and the person is quiet the whole movie. I'm like, I want to talk about the movie. Let's talk. You know what I mean? Some people I like, you know, because you can't, it's not fun to watch movies with everybody. I like people it's fun to watch movies with. He must have left and he got in at some point. He had to have. Thanks for sharing with us. Of course. I like that name. Just a cat named Ginger. Love you, Miss Hawaii. Thank you for spending time with us. Aw, thank you, Tia. I'm always asking what's going to happen. Right. Because you never know with these stories. And a lot of these stories be true. Most of these stories be true. People submit them. I mean, I don't know. Some people could be cat. But you said, is there a part 3 coming? You want to watch more? I don't want to scare y'all. Somebody said they're afraid to go to bed. Somebody said they can't sleep tonight. I don't want to give y'all too much. And then y'all be scared. Where can I find them? You have to go on YouTube and type in Mr. Nightmare. That's his name, Mr. Nightmare. He has a whole channel. He got a bunch of them. You're going to love it. You said give the tea, Miss Hawaii. I'm seeing myself live on my phone. That's funny. You said more. Let's watch a little more. Y'all really like them, huh? I don't want to scare nobody. Come on, we grown here. We can handle it. Oh my God. What's that one say? That one says something about caves. 3 most horrific caving experiences. I'm scared. What y'all want to hear? You said I just subscribed. Let me see what he got, y'all. Hold on. Let's go to videos. Let's go to popular. Wow, he been on here for a minute. He got some videos from 10 years ago. I know caves are creepy. That's why I said I want to watch that one. I still gotta go in my house, y'all. Y'all got me scared now. Let me go to the main thing here. You said they are not scary. Oh, you don't think so? It's not scary to you? It's going to rain tomorrow here in LA, Miss Hawaii. It is? Yeah, I thought it was going to rain today because the weather was crazy. All right, I'm going to try to find one more video for y'all, and then I'm going to let y'all go because I know y'all like it. Hold on. What's going on with that dog? You said so dramatic. What, the stories? Well, he got to make it like that. He want people to listen. I'm trying to see which one I want to play. But they got one about cornfields. I was trying to... Oh, let me look for a Halloween one. Let me look for a Halloween one. He usually... He start posting on Halloween. Like, let me see. Here he go, right here. It's him right here, Mr. Nightmare. Yeah, this one got 3.6 million views.
On Bumble.
3.6 million views.
Domino's best deal ever is back, which means you can get any pizza and any toppings for just $9.99. Now let me show you my...
Y'all ready? Let's go.
Halloween 2016. My 3 friends and I, who for the purpose of this story will be named J, K, and L respectively, were trick-or-treating downtown. Downtown was always a mob scene on Halloween only because the houses were so close together, meaning more candy for the amount walked. 10 o'clock was always the time things really started to die down, and by 10:30, we were really the only kids still out trick-or-treating. Only Only like 1 in 10 houses actually open their doors this late, so we called it quits with the trick-or-treating and decided to just screw around. It was a Saturday night after all. As we called it quits with the trick-or-treating, a lone person in a clown costume was walking really, really slowly from the black fog in the distance. This was a legit clown costume too. The makeup was crazy. From the slit-mouth smile to the blood-filled boils, it was a scary costume.
You guys could hear it, right?
The 4 of us laughed and screamed in reaction, but ultimately walked away. We went to a park that was nearby to just goof around, make a mess with silly string and shaving cream and whatever. We weren't the first, however. Strands of silly string littered the playground, as well as shaving cream smudged on the walls of a bathroom building in the park to spell out obscenities. We all hung out on the playground, but Jay pointed out to the dark horizon, where 2 clowns were walking over to us. One of them the same clown from earlier. I didn't think it was possible, but the second clown was even more disturbing than the first. The first clown now seemed to be wielding some kind of long, spear-like object. They both approached us really, really slowly. The funniness of the situation quickly wore off as they got closer and closer. Then they started to charge us. We all ran in different directions. One of the 2 clowns was chasing me. Out the park and down the street I ran. I didn't know the area too well, but I did know how to get back to Elle's house. I ran all the way there. About halfway there, I lost the clown. I called Elle and told him I was in his backyard. He was out of breath, but he said he just lost one of the clowns and was on his way over now. I said I'd call Jay, and he said he'd call Kay. Luckily, Jay picked up on the first ring. He wasn't being chased, so he didn't sound as freaked out as Elle did. I told him to meet us at Elle's house. 10 minutes later, all 4 of us were in Elle's backyard, gathering our thoughts and discussing what just went down. We had a good laugh about it now that it was over, as we ate some of the candies that we got. Kay went home, while me, Jay, and Elle hung out in the living room for a while. Lights off, TV on, playing some Xbox One party game. Jay looked out the window and then ducked, and told us to shh and turn off the TV. When we asked why, he said there was a clown out there. I didn't believe him, so I looked out the window. He screamed, "Don't," but it was too late. The clown standing outside of Elle's house looked right at me through the window. I shut the curtains and told Elle he wasn't lying. His parents weren't home, so going to his dad wasn't an option. Instead, we shut off the TV and went upstairs to Elle's bedroom. We looked out the window. The clown wasn't there anymore. Actually, we never saw either of the clowns again. But the next morning, Elle texted the 3 of us, saying he found a rubber clown nose on his backyard patio table. He said it was obviously placed there with intent to scare us, and mission accomplished because it worked. Luckily, that clown epidemic didn't last more than a month later. After that, it just became an old story.
What the fuck? Okay, let's talk about it before we go to story number 2. What y'all think of that one? What y'all think of that one? I think they was just trying to scare the hell out of them. I think they was just some badass people with some friends, and they just said, we gonna scare the shit out of these boys. But I mean, they took it pretty far. They took that pretty far. Like, damn, then you gonna come to my house? Like, how did y'all even find out where we live? You know what I mean? Like, damn, you're taking it a little bit too far. It's one thing to chase us off and everything. It's Halloween, whatever. But then you're going to be outside my house. And the other dude, too. The other dude that went home, he said they put a clown nose on his back patio table. So they was on some weird shit. Right. You said they ran and followed them there. Right. Let's see what the second story talking about. After this video, we done, y'all. There's 2 more stories here and we done.
It was a school night Halloween. My mom and dad took my 2 twin brothers out trick-or-treating. I didn't have plans, so my parents kind of forced me to answer the door and hand out candies while they were gone. Since we live in a cul-de-sac on a dead-end street, we get next to no trick-or-treaters on Halloween, so every time the doorbell rang, I kind of jumped. I was in the living room watching TV, with a bucket of candies next to me on a small table.
Love you too, Sabrina.
Butterfingers, the one and only candy my mom always got on Halloween for some reason. The doorbell rang, so I took the orange bucket and brought it to the door and opened it. There was someone in a scream mask and robe holding out a pillow sack. It didn't look like he got a lot of candy for the night. And given that the night was almost over and nobody was really coming to the house, and he was alone, which was always kind of sad, I gave him a bunch of candy. He walked away without saying thanks, which kind of made me feel bad, but it was honestly whatever. I stopped thinking about it as soon as I sat back down on the couch. The movie I was watching ended, so I started surfing the channels. During one of the brief moments of silence as the TV flipped from one channel to the other, I heard a thud and a bump come from downstairs near the back door.
Hi,
to better
Lisa.
hear what it could have been
Oh, what happened?
on the TV all the way down and went to the stairway. The back door was wide open. My heart started racing as I started to feel sick inside. I had forgotten to lock it when I went back there. The big question was if what I heard was the sound of the door opening or closing, and if someone was in the house. Naturally, I called down the stairway for my mom and dad, and then my twins' names. The silence from down in the dark den was creepy as hell. I was afraid to go down there. Unfortunately, there's no door to separate the main floor from the den stairway, so sitting in the living room suddenly didn't seem very comfortable. I kept the TV on, but muted. I just felt safer with the extra light it provided. It took a while for some reason, but it finally hit me to call my parents and ask them to come home. My mom said they'd be home within half an hour. I told my mom I was scared that someone was downstairs because I heard something.
Oh my God.
She assured me that there was nothing and it was just my imagination. I hung up the phone and immediately heard the sound of wood foundation cracking under one of the carpeted steps to the den. I froze on the couch. Literally, I couldn't move a muscle, not even a finger. Then there was another crack. As silently as I could, I sat up from the couch into a half-crouched position, tiptoeing to the front door. But as I passed the couch that blocked the view of the den stairway from the living room, I saw something on the stairway. It was a scream mask, leering up from the stairs at me, but in a way where he was obviously not trying to get caught. The angle at which I saw the mask and the dark lighting made the sight so much more disturbing. When he saw me, though, he went the other way, back into the darkness of the den. I locked myself in my room upstairs and called my mom again to tell her what happened. They cut their trip short and came home. Only when my parents got home did I feel safe to leave my room. My dad and I checked the whole den, every closet, every room. Luckily, there was no one. The moral of the story simply comes down to keeping your doors locked, because apparently this guy just helped himself through our back door.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about it. Always lock your doors. Always lock your doors. I don't care how safe your neighborhood is. I don't care how much you like your neighbors. I don't care. You know you a child of God. That's amazing. Lock your doors. Lock your doors. It was the person he gave the candy to, because he said they had the scream mask on. You said always the patio door if you have animals. Lock your doors. Because that's true. A lot of people do be forgetting to. I'm not gonna lie, like that probably happened maybe like once or twice my whole life. Like, I'll be like, oh shit, I forgot to lock the door. That don't happen often though, because I always lock my door. Sometimes I forget. That's why I said, like, I know it's, I can see, like, sometimes, especially if you rushing and stuff, but that's your safety. I had left my keys on my door all night and all day. By the time I noticed, the keys were hanging outside my door. Oh, Sabrina. I feel like I might have done that before, like once in my life. Because like I said, like, you rushing and stuff like that, it's easy. Or if you even going through something, like maybe you on the phone or something, you're distracted, you know what I mean? We got one last story, y'all. Because it was 3 in this video. This is the last one. Y'all ready? Yeah, God was with you. Because that's dangerous.
My older brother was having a Halloween party. He was a sophomore in college. I was actually only in the 8th grade. Our parents weren't home all weekend, so he was taking advantage of the opportunity, I guess. He made it abundantly clear he didn't want me in the house during the party, but fortunately, I already made plans to go trick-or-treating with 2 of my friends. We all agreed it would probably be our last year trick-or-treating, so we wanted to make it a good time. We started midday right after school, the prime time where most kids were out, most everyone answers their doors, and still had abundant supplies of candies.
Let's go.
We each filled 2 bags of candy by dark, making stops at our houses in between to bring them home, of course. But we weren't done. We weren't satisfied yet. We needed another bag, of course. After eating dinner and resting at my friend's place for a while, we went back out with empty bags and flashlights. You'll find out why in a little bit. It was probably around 9 o'clock now. Getting candy was a bit slower by now, since most buckets were empty and not everyone was answering their doors. An hour flew by because we were still having fun, though we didn't get much candy this time. By the time it was like 10:30 or 11, we stopped because it just seemed obnoxious to knock on people's doors this late. Everyone already went home because it was a Tuesday night, a work night and school night. But we already agreed we'd be skipping school the next day. We were all in the same homeroom and already knew nothing was going on at school tomorrow. So to us, the night was still young. So we went for a run to what locals called the ghoul house. It was a house with some history. A couple got divorced after their child somehow died in the house, and then the wife moved out. A couple weeks later, the husband shot himself at the kitchen table.
Jeez.
It's been fenced off ever since. Why the house hasn't been sold or torn down by now is beyond me.
Yeah.
When we got there, we realized how scary the house was in the dark. It stood taller than the other houses, and it had a black fence surrounding the front yard, with overgrown bushes hugging
I'm not going in that house.
The front gate was pretty easy to hop. The deviance of what we were doing just made it so much more thrilling.
Stupid.
We walked around back just to be safe, hoping no neighbors would see us. The back windows were boarded up from the inside, and the back door had a table wedged up against it. Someone clearly tried really hard to keep people out, possibly a neighbor. Through teamwork, we were able to lift the table quietly from off the door and onto the grass.
They doing too much.
The door was missing a doorknob, and it pushed in relatively easily. We were inside, and it felt weird, felt uncomfortable, and at the same time, exhilarating.
Crazy.
All of us had our flashlights, creating a decent amount of light in the otherwise pitch black building.
You said, where's
We were
Scooby-Doo?
in the back living area of the house, some kind of den. The wood floors were all creaky as hell, and everything seemed to have been untouched for years. It didn't seem like anyone ever really broke in there before. That room was clear of anything interesting, so we moved on to the kitchen. An archaic fridge sat in the corner. One of my friends opened it up, and immediately the room filled with a stale, rotten, plasticky type odor.
What the fuck?
The fridge had some old empty milk and orange juice cartons. That was about it. The whole kitchen smelled foul, so we got out of there quickly. Next was the living room, and this room was just creepy. Something about it, I don't know, it just made you think that anytime you turned around, there'd be someone standing in one of the corners. One of my friends pointed his light up and said, "Look at that." There was a giant hole in the ceiling, which led right up to a room upstairs. As my other friend and I also shined our lights up there was a couple thumps from right above us. We all shut our lights. I got that horrible, painful feeling in my heart area from what I just heard. We all whispered very, very lightly that those were definitely footsteps. One friend whispered we should go up there, see what it was. My other friend and I said absolutely no way and started tiptoeing to the back door. But he was persistent. He didn't follow us. Instead, he went upstairs. He didn't even make a good effort at being quiet about it. We kind of felt like we had to wait for him down in the living room now, so we stayed put.
They doing too
We
much.
heard his footsteps upstairs now, crossing the upstairs of the house, until he stopped right above us. My eyes were adjusted to the dark by this point, so even without our flashlights on, I was able to see the figure of my friend, standing above us, looking down through that hole in the ceiling. I tried whispering up there loud enough so that he could hear, but apparently he couldn't. I didn't want to get any louder, but suddenly we heard footsteps coming from the stairway in the living room. We both turned on our flashlights and shined them up to the top of the staircase to see our other friend walking down the stairs. The realization set in immediately.
Right.
Neither of us had the balls to shine our lights up to that hole in the ceiling to see who was actually
I'm not
standing
asleep.
there. I just screamed run, and we all booked it to the back door, out the house, and to one of my friend's house. The friend who went upstairs said he smelled something foul
I got
up
the
there,
phone down
like
there.
a rotting carcass, and that he also heard breathing coming from one of the rooms. To this day, we have no idea who was in that house, but it seemed unlikely that it was just another curious wanderer, given how boarded up the house was. To say the least, we don't go there anymore.
Well, yeah. Okay, so that one wasn't really that good. So what, somebody was living in that house, basically, right? Is that what happened with that one, y'all? Somebody was just living in the house? That one wasn't really that scary. It's like y'all asked for that. Y'all went in some boarded up house where people were unalived. You said one dead, one living. Yeah, like y'all broke in a house with all of that going on. Like, all right, y'all. We had a good enough time together. We're going to watch some more stories next time. Barb talking about is Jess asleep. Why would I get on here and go to sleep on y'all? Come on, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that unless y'all wanted me to or something. Yes, you too, Sabrina. I love y'all. No, I had the phone down here, so I was looking at the phone like this. I wasn't asleep. You're so funny. I gotta go up. I gotta do some readings. Love you guys. I had fun. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Even though we had a small crowd, we still had fun. Sometimes I like the smaller crowds because it's, I don't know. I like it. I like a small amount of people. Feels more like family, like homey, you know? All right. Yeah, I love you guys. Good night. I'm going to see y'all later. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, more intimate. Right. Exactly. You said call this story time. Yeah, we can start doing it. We can start doing that together. All right. I love you guys. See you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. All right.